This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm pleased to be joined by Fiona Davidson, the County Councillor for Guildford South East. Welcome back to the Guildford Dragon, Fiona.
Thanks, Martin.
Okay, and I've asked for this interview with Fiona because I was present when she gave a talk to the Guildford Vision Group the other day, explaining some of the procedure around the reorganisation of the councils. So that's the topic we're going to cover. And one of the first points you made in that interesting talk, Fiona, was that the reorganisation is just a precursor to devolution.
It is, absolutely. The goal of the new Labour government, based on the white paper, which was issued on the 16th of December, is that there will no longer be two-tier councils, that we will have unitary councils, and unitary councils will combine and form form strategic authorities. There will be three varieties of strategic authorities, two of which will have a directly elected mayor. So that's the end game. And the proposal is that all of these mayoral authorities will have been set up by around 2028, latest 2029. And of course, the government's term ends in 2029.
Okay, and whilst nothing is set in stone yet, it's envisaged, I believe, that Surrey is most likely to be divided into two or possibly three unitaries, and that together they will form the strategic area. Is that correct?
That's correct. Two schools of thought on this. Surrey County Council is working with the leaders and the CEOs of all of the districts and boroughs. And what they're doing at the moment is they're trying to put together one option to submit to the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. But there are different views. Surrey County Council's current view is that only a two unitary is possible in Surrey, and I'll explain the reasons for that in a moment. The districts and boroughs' view is that Surrey should have three unitary authorities. Now, a submission has to be made to the MH. I always forget what it's called. The Ministry of Housing and Local Government
Yes.
on the 21st of March. So a submission from Surrey County Council and from the districts and boroughs, who, as I say, are currently collaborating, has to be made on the 21st of March. If if Surrey on one hand and the districts and boroughs on the other hand can't agree to either a three or a two unitary split for Surrey, then they will each put in their own proposal.
Okay, but
And
has a
as I say, at the moment, they hold different views.
has a single unitary been completely ruled out?
To my knowledge, it has. It has certainly for the time being, because the only two options on the table are either a two unitary or a three unitary. And I think it's worth saying that in terms of creating a mayoral strategic authority, that's about combining unitaries together. Now, I think the intent is that a strategic authority, which is a combination of unitary authorities, will have roughly will cover a population of about 1.5 million. Now, Surrey has 1.2 million. So, of
Mhm.
course, the question arises is, is it appropriate for Surrey to be a strategic authority, no matter how many unitaries are inside it, but is it appropriate with only 1.2 million? And the answer seems to be that certainly the ministry will consider Surrey as a strategic authority, even with, 300,000 people less than its ideal. And the reason for that is because um, Surrey is the only contributor to the Treasury, with the exception of the City of London. So Surrey has a significant, what they call gross value added, and it's unusual as a county in that respect. So the view is that the economic footprint is good enough to create a strategic authority, because a strategic authority is about government says, it's about driving growth. It's not just about driving devolution. The real aim is about driving growth. And if you like, untethering the regions from central government. Now, mm, views differ on that one, but that's what the government is saying.
But an important factor you've mentioned there that Surrey, apart from the City of London, is the only donor county or area in the
Net contributor.
net contributor. I mean, that's quite incredible, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
It is. Absolutely.
And of course, it sort of it makes it more understandable why the government is so motivated to see growth in this area, because of course, the more growth they get, the better for the overall economy as far as they're concerned.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I mean, the vision that the government seems to have is that all around the country you'll have lots of iterations of Greater Manchester. That's the model. It's not the model is not the Greater London Authority. The model is really the Greater Manchester Authority. And I think, most commentators would say that, Manchester has really delivered on the level of devolution that it has achieved with Andy Burnham as its mayor. So that seems to be the model that's in the government's mind. But it that there isn't that much written down.
No, and there's I mean, I would argue there's not a lot in common between Manchester, a large city, and the county of Surrey.
Well, I mean, it's a model, really, isn't it? So the idea is that you have unitary authorities who combine together to create a strategic authority over an area that is capable of creating economic growth. So, a directly elected mayor will have really significant powers, and there will be a really significant funding settlement. And that funding settlement won't just be in sort of separate pots of money. The idea is that at the most developed end of the mayoral authority, and as I said earlier, there are three flavors, that actually there will be a multi-year funding settlement, maybe only for a couple of years in the first few years of operation, but a multi-year funding settlement. And then actually mayors will be able to decide exactly how to deploy those funds to best effect in their area. So the model is that the mayor, and although directly elected, you could easily see these mayors becoming fiefdoms. The mayor will have responsibility for a whole plethora of strategic areas. So funding and investment, skills and employment, transport and local infrastructure, housing and planning, economic development, health and well-being, public safety, environment and climate change. And it's also envisaged, for instance, that a mayor will have the role of the police and crime commissioner. That role may be delegated by the mayor, but that will be part of the mayor's role. And it's also envisaged that the mayor might, and I don't know whether there would be enough hours in the day, but the mayor might also co-chair an integrated care board. So, these mayors are going to have tremendous powers at a strategic level, and nobody really knows what that means. The unitary authorities that sit beneath the mayor, if you like, in the hierarchy, will be the organs of delivery.
Okay, can I just
So they
interrupt
won't
there
be
because
strategic.
I
Yeah.
just want to, I mean, as you say, there's going to be a lot of concentration of power in with the mayor, who will be
Yeah.
elected, but we'll elect them once every four or whatever their term's going to be, every 4 years, say. And of
Probably every
course,
4 years.
yeah, and of course, party politics is likely to be play a part in the election of these mayors. I The track record of a concentration of power isn't always good, is it?
No. I mean, what our government argue at the minute is that there's a huge amount of concentration of power in Westminster.
Yeah.
And this is a way of actually, providing much more opportunity for the regions to make the decisions that are in the best interests of the people in their area.
Right.
I mean, who knows?
But how independent do you think they'll be of the government, or is it impossible to say at this stage?
I think it's impossible to say. I mean,
Okay.
it's all about really what rights the Ministry of Housing and Local Government keeps to itself, as opposed to, delegating completely to a mayor. But then there's then there are the financial reins that they have. So it is we don't really have, even though I say that Greater Manchester is the model. Greater Manchester today doesn't have either the strategic or the financial autonomy that is envisaged under the devolution that's now being put into place. So it is very difficult to say what's actually going to be happening. But this is a country that is very, very centralized, and
Yes.
I have difficulty believing that central government is really going to give away um, very significant powers. That's it's kind of hard to believe.
Okay.
You know, we've been busily centralizing since the mid 1980s, since the Thatcher government of the 1980s,
Yeah.
and you know, restricting the ability of local authorities, by constantly, chipping away at their funding.
Now, one of the reasons given for the reorganization is to make it easier to understand. Well, at least it should be easier to understand if one unitary authority is responsible for everything in their area. But actually,
Mm.
that's not going to be the case, is it? Because we're still going to have two tiers of responsibilities, i.e., the mayor's responsibilities and the unitary authority's responsibilities.
Well, so the mayor has strategic responsibilities. Delivery sits with the unitary authorities. Now,
Okay.
unfortunately, I mean, we already have unitaries in lots of parts of the country.
Yeah.
So Cumbria, Cornwall,
But they
I
don't
think
all have a mayor above them, do they? Not all of
no,
them.
they don't all have a mayor above them. This is a relatively new development. I I think that It, it it's very difficult to judge. We just don't know because I'm not sure that all of the views of government are particularly well developed at the minute.
No.
I think they have
Okay.
a direction of travel. Think there are very clear aims.
It is a bit of
And
a worry, though, isn't it, that we're rushing into this without, with still question marks about how this is actually going to work out.
we are certainly rushing into it. And
Yeah.
this seems to be at breakneck speed. So for instance, by the 21st of March, Surrey has to decide whether, we're going to look at whether we're going to submit an application, submit a proposal
Which is only
for
3 weeks
either,
away.
it's only 3 weeks away, for either two or three unitaries. To split up Surrey into either two or three unitaries. Um, you know, the proposal will also need to identify, at least, as the draft, it will need to put the bones on what reorganization will look like. So how many councillors will there be? How many unitaries will there be? To what extent can each of the unitaries demonstrate that, and these are the key criteria, demonstrate that they will be self-sufficient, that they will be, sorry, not self-sufficient, they will be able to deliver sustainable and high quality public services. And that's basically about, what are the demands on that council and what is the council tax take? Now, the
Okay.
council tax take in Surrey varies dramatically across the country. So, county, I should say. I mean, you will be surprised possibly to learn that West Surrey, which comprises ourselves and Waverley, provide the highest council tax take. So, we're not particularly demanding on services, but we produce a lot of the council tax
Okay. Now I'm
income.
conscious of, sorry to rush you, but I'm conscious of
Sure.
time. And one other thing that surprised me in your talk the other day was you said that Surrey is the only fast-tracked application.
Um, Well, I believe we were the only fast track application. I mean, I don't know I don't know that I can be definitive about that, but
Okay,
that's what I've been
that's the
told.
latest information you have.
It is
Okay,
absolutely. But there are lots of reasons potentially for that. I mean, Surrey was already going down a devolution route under the Conservative administration. So, for instance, we had the ability we were given funding and had the right to create a plan for skills and to if you like, to enhance development by producing a skills plan and a skills strategy and a very integrated sort of plan for that level of capability. Um, so that may be one of the reasons why Surrey was the only two-tier authority that was approved by government to embark on this fast track. I mean, there are lots of views around, but I'm not sure that many people, certainly at my level as a councillor, really know why. The other view that is around is that government wanted to try to figure out how to deal with Surrey, or wanted Surrey to figure out how to deal with its debt, because of course we have a significant
okay,
combined
yeah, I want to
structure.
come on to the debt in a minute, but being the first one, I mean, potentially, if it all goes well, it means we get the benefits earlier. If it doesn't go well, it means that we're taking all the risk of ironing out all the glitches and issues that's going to go along with, most reorganizations don't go without any kind of glitch, do they?
Oh no, I mean it's a horrible speed. As I say, I referred to it earlier as breakneck, and that's what
But
it is. And it,
and when the
it really
vote when
does
you
feel
took
unnecessary.
and when you took the vote amongst the
Well, we
council,
didn't
sorry,
we
county
didn't take we
council,
didn't take a vote. We had no vote.
right?
The vote, the
Explain what you
vote,
mean by that.
okay. The decision on whether to apply for fast track reorganization was taken by the leader and the cabinet, and that was within their remit to take. So Surrey councillors did not have a legal vote. The vote that was taken, the only vote that was taken, is called a vote to note. It had no legal status. It wasn't a formal vote because the decision had already been made, as is the right. It is the right of the leader and the cabinet to have made the decision, to have made the decision. Um, and the decision was made in effect even before that council meeting. So whatever informal vote was taken, and it was an informal vote, it had no legal status. It was a vote to note.
And that was
Whatever,
why and that's why you abstained, I think you
yeah,
said.
because it was pointless. It had
Right.
absolutely no significance whatsoever.
Okay. Sorry again to rush you, but you mentioned just now the debt, and of course, we all know that there are some councils, notably Woking, our neighbouring council, heavily in debt. I mean, they've got a 2 billion debt. Um, what what do you see? What's going to happen about that debt, do you think, under the reorganisation?
Nobody knows.
Right.
I mean, Woking is deemed to have about 1.5 billion of unsecured debt. So there's about right across Surrey, including Surrey County Council, there's about 5.5 billion pounds worth of debt.
Right.
Of that, most of it can be secured against assets.
Right.
Um,
But you'd have to liquidate the assets, wouldn't you?
there would be assets that would be liquidatable.
Yeah.
Okay. Or, the income that you're receiving, is sufficient to cover the debt and the debt repayments, principally the debt repayments. But Surrey Woking is the only authority that has what's called unsecured debt of about 1.5 billion. And nobody knows what's really going to happen. The white paper suggests that government expects local authorities who are in debt to sell assets to minimize their reserves. But I mean, there's no way right across Surrey that we could do that and retain sustainable services,
Mm.
good quality services.
Because we're getting income, the councils are getting income from some of these
Of
assets.
course, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, Runnymede, Runnymede and Spelthorne and all of the other local authorities who are deemed to have significant amounts of debt, they do have sufficient income to cover the servicing of the debt, and the assets are deemed to be valuable. It's Woking where the problem arises.
But
Um,
people in Guildford won't be happy if they feel that they're taking on Woking's debt, will they?
Nobody wants Woking's debt.
No,
The leader of Surrey wrote to a number of other surrounding authorities asking if they would like to join in a mayoral authority with Surrey, and none of them said yes. And they didn't
no.
want to sign up with us because they didn't want the debt, because no one knows what's actually going to happen about the debt. I mean, I'm told there are discussions underway with the Treasury, but as things currently stand, we have no way of
No.
knowing what will happen. But whatever happens, all of us will be picking up some element of that debt.
Okay. And you also said at the at your talk that you felt it was inevitable that the Guildford Borough will be grouped with Woking in the reorganisation.
No, because the only two options on the table, one from Surrey County Council, the other potentially from the districts and boroughs, as I say, unless they reach agreement by the 21st of March. The two options on the table, in either scenario, each option groups Guildford along with Woking and Waverley.
And those options were drawn up by Surrey County Council.
No, well, the one option, which is
Two.
to divide the geographic area of Surrey into two unitaries, is the choice of Surrey County Council. The
Right.
district and boroughs are currently considering a three unitary setup for Surrey. So there would be if you like, a north, um, a North Surrey, an East Surrey, and a West Surrey. And those would
Okay.
be the three units. But we don't know whether they will come to agreement by the 21st of March. And if they don't, then two separate submissions will be made. And we will find out within a couple of months after the 21st of March, probably within a month of the 21st of March, which option the government wants to pursue.
Okay, now we've only got a short time left, so I'd like to really get through the next few points quickly.
Yeah.
Firstly, the reorganization is going to present a major challenge of rationalization of both staff and IT systems, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's called disaggregation because the majority of services will be disaggregated amongst the unitaries. So yes, so there will be, I mean, there is a process in terms of how staff will be transferred, potentially to other authorities. But yes, staff will move, IT systems will have to be disaggregated amongst the
I
the
mean,
however many unitaries there are.
anyone that's worked with IT at any level really knows that sharing data between different systems can be a nightmare. And
Well, you don't have to share data between different systems. I mean, you could have an instance of each of the platforms in each of the unitaries.
yes, but at the moment the unitaries don't exist. So the data's got,
No, the unitaries will begin to exist though, following elections in May 26. So the elections in May 26 will be for the new unitary
okay,
authorities. And once those unitary authorities are in place, they will then have a year to set up before they take over services
okay.
from.
So they'll have a year to not only set up the new systems, but to migrate all the data onto them.
I know.
Okay. Well, that to me, that sounds, as someone that was previously involved in IT management, that sounds a challenge, but there we are. And
I mean, I don't, I mean, frankly, I don't think it's doable.
No.
but it's the timescale that's been set.
Okay. And secondly, it may not be understood that the postponement of the elections mean that current county councillors will remain in place for 7 years. Is that's
Yeah,
correct?
that's 6 years.
6 years, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. So current borough and Surrey County councillors will all stay in place until the 1st of April 2027. The unitary authority elections will be in May 26, and we will vote for councillors for the unitary authorities. They will have the responsibility for setting up the unitary authority, which will um, come into um, come into existence legally on the 1st of April 2027. Until that time, districts and boroughs and councillors in each of those two entities will remain responsible for the delivery of services.
Okay. And finally, is there any expectation of any public consultation on all this, or is it a done deal and we've just got to accept it?
The government has said that it will undertake consultation with key stakeholders, so health, the third sector charities, police, dum dum dum. They will undertake a consultation between, I think they're saying between May and August. There will be the consultation with residents will be more of a broadcast
More of an
than a
explanation, it sounds to
consultation.
me, than a, yeah,
It'll be information
right.
rather than consultation, and
Yeah.
that will probably be led by the districts and by Surrey rather than directly by government. So government is focusing on consulting with, all of the various local authority partners, of whom there are very many, and engagement with residents will be really the responsibility of the local authorities to provide information.
Okay. Well, Fiona, thank you very much for giving the time. Listening to your interview today and to the talk you gave the other day, I've learnt a lot about it, and I hope that our readers can as well through the information you've given.
Good. It's good to talk to you, Martin. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.